couple of the groups that were meeting one evening here at the church. I think it was finance and trustees, and the Child Development Center board may have been meeting. I've been trying to start each of our meetings with a passage of Scripture and a brief devotion. And I told folks at that time I thought maybe I could see a sermon coming out of this, and so I've expanded it just a little bit, and I'd like to share today with you muddling through. Muddling through. For Paul, walking in the Spirit means the whole round of activities of the individual life lived in the Spirit. And he's saying that walking in the Spirit is a way to real life that's God's gift to us. In other words, we solve the problems of life by living them while embracing what God is doing for us. However, we shouldn't hear in that as saying, just walk in the Spirit and you will lead a victorious Christian life. We shouldn't be hearing that. Well, the fact is, folks, that many of the problems of life do not lend themselves to tidy and victorious solutions, do they? They don't. Sometimes the solutions, such as they are, come only by muddling through the problems. Definition of muddling through. Muddling through is usually defined as to continue despite confusion or difficulties, or to succeed, often clumsily, despite being ill-equipped or untrained. Now, doesn't that describe much of what we face in life? Just think about it. Be honest about it. You know, if we want a definition of what normal is, muddling probably works just about as well as anything. Perhaps when we were young, when you were young, we naively believed that for most of the problems, there were solutions out there. And they were out there somewhere. And that if we let the right people know about our difficulties, or got in touch with the right agency, or hired the right life coach, or read the right book, or whatever, things would be fixed or solved. But what has life taught us since then? Since we were so young and naive? What has life taught us? Yes, there are wise people. Yes, there are helping agencies. Yes, there are how-to books. Believe me, I was over at Ollie's here a month or so ago. You know, good books cheap. I love to get books at Ollie's, but they got one half of a wall over there covered with computers for dummies and electricity for dummies and all this how-to. You know, there are a lot of how-to books out there. So there are helping agencies. There's how-to books, but in many circumstances, there is only so much that others can do or are willing to do. Some of what remains is up to God, and some of it is up to us. And that often means, folks, muddling through, putting one foot in front of the other, somehow doing what needs to be done today. We've all made plans, haven't we? I don't think there's one of us that we've planned out, man, we're going to have vacation in 6 months, and we've got that vacation planned down to a T. Every last detail is taken care of. Suddenly you end up with appendicitis. You can't go on that vacation you plan, so what do? Well, you muddle through and you make do with going here, going there. I know there's some engineers in this congregation. You've made your plans, you've drawn your blueprint, everything is ready. Something unexpected happens. And you have to change your plans in the middle of the street. Suddenly you're muddling through, just trying to get means dealing with what comes up, tackling the immediate stuff. Well, quite often I hear, well, what are you going to do about that? I'm not going to do anything until it confronts me, and then I'll handle it. I've got enough to do today without worrying about what's coming tomorrow. You know, today has enough worries of its own, the Scripture says. So sometimes we just muddle through, tackling the immediate stuff. You know, and along the way, we may even have to back out of some previous commitments and leave some good things by the wayside. And we generally have to start with whatever mess we find ourselves in and muddle our way out. And that's often exhausting. But in fact, it's frequently the only way. Because much of the time, there are no big run-stroke solutions to life's problems. Alcoholics Anonymous doesn't focus on lifetime solutions. They talk about daily solutions. Staying sober one day at a time, for example. That's muddling through. That's that muddling through sort of approach, but remarkably, it is often the only way that works. And you'll recognize that muddling through is the opposite of efficiency, isn't it? Muddling through is the opposite of efficiency. And there are always people and seminars and books ready to tell us how to be more efficient, how to operate more efficiently, how to be more efficient in our lives. But the trouble is the world seldom runs efficiently. At least my world doesn't. What's more, the situations in life that make it possible for us to do such things as grow in the Spirit are seldom models of efficiency. Christ lived an intensely human, inefficient life. And He invites us to do the same. And that's the whole meaning of the incarnation. God in the flesh. Maybe, just maybe, folks, the Spirit can only touch us when we drop that armor of efficiency and are able to let ourselves out with all the rough edges of life show. Maybe only then can the Spirit touch us. When we become authentic. You know, actually, it's the framework in which we muddle that makes all the difference. And that's the heart of Paul's message from the verses today. We can muddle through in the flesh, in the dread that life has no meaning or purpose, and that in the end, everything and everyone amounts to nothing. We can muddle in the flesh, in the hope against hope, that will somehow find peace in self-indulgence. We can muddle through in the flesh in the fear that some past misdeed, real or imagined, will haunt us for our lifetime. We can muddle through in the flesh, believing that we're alone and that it's all up to us, and thus having little hope of resolving anything for the long term. Or we can muddle through not in the flesh, but in the Spirit, looking at things as they really are, but with the assurance that sin and death do not have the last word. We can muddle through in the Spirit with the belief that what cannot be resolved can be borne through the grace of God. We can muddle through in the Spirit with the comfort that the Spirit of God is a spirit of peace that passes understanding. Muddling in the Spirit means that as we face the problems of life, especially those that seem to defy solutions, and we've all been there, what am I going to do now? When all we have left is to muddle through, we do not muddle through alone. We walk in the Spirit. And then carry on, clumsily if necessary, but in the certainty, folks, that God flows even through our inefficiency when our heart is turned toward Him. And so, come on, we'll just muddle through this together. Okay? And sometimes we'll get it right, and sometimes we won't. And that's okay. We just back up and start muddling in a different direction. But remember, in the midst of your pain and your losses, your terror and your closed doors, you don't walk alone. We don't walk alone. And that's good news for us this morning. Would you pray with me? God, as we come before you this day, we thank you, God, even in our insecurity and our inefficiency, God, you use us. You work through us. Thanks be to you,